Hey guys, Holly here and I'm with Dr. Lane Norton and this is week 6 of my WBFF Worlds Contest Prep Series.
Boom!
I've got some hair ties. Hang on, let me just get rid of those. No one wants to see a hair tie. Cool. My hands are clean. So, this week, what are you looking at?
Where are we? Where have you taken me?
We're in a really empty office.
We moved.
We did.
We have our own office now.
Yeah, except I need where's all the cushions?
All our stuff hasn't come in yet, so you guys are gonna have to.
Yeah, I wish that you could see what I'm looking at right now because it's the biggest jerry rig. It's it's really fantastic. Gina would be so disappointed. But it's very exciting. So we moved in last Friday. We now have space for our team. We have a conference room and we all have our own offices, which is really good. Ooh, ooh.
Anyway.
Well, let's talk about this week.
I was going to make a comment about you having the biggest office.
Really? Do I have the biggest office?
Yeah.
It's because it actually has the most amount of natural light, and I clearly need all the natural light
that
one can need.
Apparently, she's some sort of plant and photosynthesizes or some shit.
Maybe I am.
Which makes sense considering how low your calories are.
I'm pretty sure I ate an entire tree yesterday based on the amount of fiber I had at dinner time. And how much my weight has increased today, literally like a kilo. Anyway.
Wait, your weight was up today?
Yeah, well that's because I had a 2 kilo salad before bed.
Oh, you had those noodles too, the shitty noodles.
No, but that was yesterday in the morning.
Oh, I thought you
had the whole day to get rid of that stuff and nope, nothing happened. But it is one of the struggles when you start dieting. Your calories go down, your food volume goes down. I feel like we talk about this quite a bit, but...
Yeah. But you had a little bit of a rough week last week and kind of came to a realization that you don't really have the flexibility to...
No, none.
Eat out.
Nada.
Like you would like.
Zippity. Or no.
Well, I think that... when I was in contest prep previously, even though I would have the flexibility to go and eat out, I just don't trust restaurants.
Yeah.
I don't trust them
what
to make.
I think the difference between you and I in that sense is that I have a really broad spectrum cooking background. I have probably cooked in not giving you shit, really, I'm being serious. I have probably worked in several different cuisines over the course of my life. I have experimented at home cooking the foods that I enjoy when I go out. So I have a really good idea of what's actually in things. I can look at my plate in a Mexican restaurant, I can look at my plate in a Thai restaurant, Japanese. I know what I'm eating.
Yeah, but the problem
is the amounts.
Well, the amounts and the oil. Because if they can just splash oil on something, and it could be 10 mils, it could be
20, 30
mils.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem, I think, is just trying to get a bit of a ballpark on how much exactly of the fats that are added to foods when we eat out. So and it makes a huge difference to your calories. So at the moment, my fat targets are 36 grams.
Yeah, and you
in one meal, a restaurant can use that much.
Based on what you hit last prep, you should be losing quickly.
Yeah.
Right now, and you're not.
Yeah, so
something's going on.
We had a couple of our little discussions this past week. So first and foremost, Monday to Friday was that time of the month. So my weight always goes up by about 1 kilo. In fact, my weekly average has gone up by half a kilo that week. So prior to starting my period, I was at 67, or that was my weekly average. So I had many weigh-ins that are under 67 from the previous week. This past week, it has all been over 67, getting pretty high. So that's brought things back up. But I think 3 things that we kind of talked about were eating out at restaurants and just really needs to cut back because obviously I'm underestimating the amounts of fats that are going into those foods. Eating at friends' houses, which, I mean, I can still see my friends. I'll just invite them to my house and I'll cook, so I know exactly what's in it. And the other thing are the diet products and the diet foods. So I'd recently been talking about some of these diet products, namely the Professor Nuts peanut butter.
It's supposed to have a binding agent that helps excrete the fats.
Yeah, so I've put multiple posts up answering questions about this because a lot of you guys were interested in how it actually works. How can it be zero fats? How can it be zero carbs? The answer is really simple, to be honest. They add a fibrous molecule. It's actually derived from corn or cornstarch, and basically it has a cyclic structure. And that cyclic structure is actually able to bind to lipids, and it basically encapsulates the fat molecule, and then it therefore is undigested by the duodenum or our intestine or stomach.
In theory.
No, well, it should. That's what it does. So that's what they have been able to prove. But here's what we don't know. Once it passes from the stomach or the duodenum down to the large colon or the distal colon, it can then be fermented by gut bacteria. So we have a microflora that kind of resides naturally in our GI.
It's the same reason that fiber isn't 0 calorie.
Right.
Because fiber can be fermented to short chain fatty acids and reabsorbed into the liver.
Yeah, like butyric acid. There's quite a few different short chain fatty acids that can actually travel back across the intestinal lumen, and then those calories are now available and they're back in circulation. Same way that we can still absorb calories from sugar alcohols in these dietary products. It's also another reason why a lot of people get gastro upset from taking in too large a volume of these diet products, because it's kind of a metabolic waste product that's kind of building up, I guess, in our GI, and that's why we end up getting, stomach, abdominal distension, like bad gas, diarrhea for some people. It can be really bad. So in the case of this PB powder, peanut butter, it's just regular peanut butter. I do believe that over time, the more we start to consume a particular type of food, our microflora in our gut adapts. It changes, because essentially, and especially when we're dieting.
We don't have any data to support this, but this is the theory. Ancillary data that supports this, and this is our. I just have a hard time believing that you're eating the calories you're eating and not losing. Well, I mean, you got down to like 61 kilos on a similar amount of calories last time, and now your weight's not even budging.
No, it's budging. It's moved a lot. You haven't seen the data.
Okay, I haven't seen the data, but I mean, yeah, 3 days ago you were ready to. Three
days ago, I probably still had my period.
Yeah, so I'm just concerned because I want to see you go to Worlds and do really well.
Yeah.
So my feeling is leave no stone unturned.
Right. So with that being said, I'm of the opinion that I'm probably taking in more calories from these diet products than I was when I first started consuming them, right? Because our gut micro changes, and we start to, develop a species essentially that can metabolize that. Because when you're dieting, you're fasting, or you're basically starving that ecosystem. So the ones that don't thrive and don't survive are dying off, but we're, building more of the ones that can sustain in that particular environment.
Yeah, and there's evidence that your gut microflora changes when you're calorically restricted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Possibly to species of bacteria that are more efficient at extracting fiber or calories from fiber and those sorts of things.
So that is the logic behind my reasoning for probably starting to reduce my intake of some of those products. And this past week, I have completely taken all of those out. And sure enough, like every day this week, I've seen my weight starting to trend down, with the exception of this morning, because I ate a 4-kilo salad before I went to bed, and it's really early here in the morning now. So, yeah, I don't think...
4-kilo salad?
It's increasing, yeah. It was pretty big. It was like an entire salad bowl. It was massive. I got home at like 10 o'clock after training. I'm like, damn, I've got hardly any calories left. I'm going to eat a salad.
You just insert a troll face over me right now.
There's already one on you.
So since I haven't seen the data, why don't we go check out the data and see what we're going to do this week?
Yes, and I have some key points I think I want to kind of make note about, especially if it's that time of the month and you're dieting. So let's go and look at it. Okay, so here is this past week of data. So I just want to quickly go to the last kind of the trending weight before I got my period. Okay, so you can see I started the week, got down to as low as 66.2. I took my high day on Saturday, the week prior, and then I didn't weigh in the next morning because it's going to skew my data. So my average weekly weight was 67 for that week. Now, look what happens just between the 2 days that I get my period. So I go from 66.2 up to 67.9, okay? So we're talking 1.5 kilos plus weight gain for me as an individual. I have seen some people kind of increase their weight up to 3 kilos with their period. I'm not sure what kind of extremes you have seen.
I've seen that. I had one client in particular who would get like up to, I had like 4 kilos.
Oh, wow.
And I think part of that is probably also, one, the fluid shift, but also you're hungrier on your period.
It's much, much more difficult to control cravings when it is that time. And we're also so much more emotional. So I think then your thought process is completely skewed.
You weren't too bad in that aspect this past week.
Yeah, but I have a lot of practice with this. I think people that are not experienced in this, they really...
You don't have that much practice with periods.
No, actually it's still quite new for me, but I think like I logic through it and...
Sometimes.
Yeah, but it's very frustrating because it's really hard to get a gauge on what's actually happening with your weight. So we can see here for this entire week, my weight's staying up in the 67 mark, despite the fact that I am smashing these really low calories. Like Lane and I were just saying, like, we're really concerned with how aggressive we're having to get, considering like how low I already am, but what's happening with my weight. So I think what we're hoping to see this week with my new targets, and we'll talk about those, is that it should be like a bit of a swoosh effect. So
I'm hoping you're going to get down into the 65s.
Yeah, the 65s would be my target for next Monday because that's where I'm meant to be trending. I'm meant to be at 65.8 by next weigh-in as my average, which is concerning. So I'm thinking just the next couple of days. I've had some really good training sessions this week.
We're also putting more HIIT back in, which you seem to respond better to.
Yeah, I was probably over-relying a little bit on my cardio.
Honestly, you just don't have the time either.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I think I was so focused on trying to hit my 10,000 steps every day, which is just, honestly, that is such a difficult thing for me to do. So
I get 10,000 steps in a day without even doing extra cardio.
In his office, he just
I just
like,
move.
Oh yeah, move in.
But that's part of like. So I've been in a calorie surplus for a long time.
10 years.
Not 10 years.
Oh, really?
I had some cuts in there. I cut down to 205. A lot of what happens when you diet, a lot of the ways that your body adapts metabolically is by reducing your non-exercise adaptive thermogenesis. You're fidgeting, your short steps. So like even like if you look at me at contest prep back in 2010, there's videos of me. I like talk slower. Mm-hmm. I blink slower. Like it's very noticeable.
Right.
So like for you, I think you've been restricted for a good portion of the last 5 years in competing. So you just like when you're working, you stand like a stone.
Yeah,
you don't move at all.
I'm literally just here like this.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it. And for you to get 10,000 steps in a day is really, really
tough.
I
have to leave the house on numerous occasions to go for walks to get that in. So I have to do like a 25-minute walk in the morning. Then I would go for
nothing like spending your quality time with your partner having to hoof a 4-mile walk.
So then I have to go do a 10-minute walk in the middle of the day, like just to get moving. And then after training, I would have to do another 20-minute walk just to get 10,000 steps in because I'm so sedentary in my work. So yeah, I think the biggest thing that we are changing up this week in particular is we're going to probably reduce the amount of steps that I work towards because it's taking up a lot of time, and I'm also very adapted to walking. Like I don't burn a lot of calories when I'm walking because my body is so good at it. I'm so used to that particular exercise. So we're going to reintroduce some HIIT training.
Some HIIT, yeah.
Instead of doing one HIIT class or HIIT workout this week, I'm doing 2. So I've taken that to 90 minutes this week, and I've pulled back my step tracking to 8,000 steps a day. which is a little bit more manageable. That will probably be achieved just by going for a 25-minute walk in the morning, and then just the walking that I do when I'm at the gym, doing my regular weights training session, and hopefully just any incidental back and forth between, you know, house, office, work.
How many steps are you at right now?
Today,
I'm interested.
Yeah, okay, so I've already been for a 25-minute walk this morning and gotten ready for work, coming in.
Wrong one.
Oops. I have done... Wrong one again.
You know, you can just go to...
You know, yeah. My fingers are fat.
Oh, 4,000, that's pretty good.
4,000 steps.
I've done 1,500 doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So,
all right, so we're going to take your high day down a little bit.
Yeah, looking to this week, you can see here my average went up by 400 grams, which is annoying. I'm going to take my high day down from, which was 210 in previous weeks, to 190, and my fat target was previously 67. I'm bringing it back to 50. So that's a good 250 calorie drop on one day of the week. I haven't made any adjustments to my low days because that's already a very aggressive target.
Yep.
And yeah, we should get to see some results. So today, or this week so far, you can see my weight, which we'll talk about next week's update, but it's already trending down. But
it's matching what it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so we need to see some rapid weight loss this weekend to kind of get me back on track. And it's really difficult because that period week just throws everything drastically, and then the other things that we talked about. So I mentioned before I wanted to put out some key facts or things to focus on if you are trying to diet, whether it's for a show or whether it's for just, you know, general purpose, you're trying to lose weight, you're female, on the weeks of your period. If I can make any recommendations to you, it is to try to minimize the amount of variability within your dietary intakes, okay? Just to try to make sure that you're not having large fluxes in your sodium intake, which will make that weight regain even worse. The other thing is trying to be really, really consistent with your fiber intakes on the week of your period. So it might be that on that week, you stick to the same foods that you know that you're always consuming so that you can be consistent with whatever the fiber amount is that's normal for you. The other thing is really knuckling down on hitting those targets. If there were any a week that you need to make sure you're absolutely nailing them, though it's super important across the board, just try to hit your targets. Just make a conscious effort to get those 100% so that you can be certain that you are going to be making progress outside of the fact that it's your monthlies. And then your exercise. So try to be consistent from day to day with how much activity that you are doing. So rather than doing like one day of the week where you're doing 20,000 steps and then another day where you've got nothing, try to make sure that you are pretty consistent with the amount and the volumes that you're doing from day to day so that we don't have those huge fluctuations in your daily weight. So they would be the 4 things that I would really encourage you to be nailing at that time of the month. So yeah, is there anything else that you can think of that you would recommend or suggest outside of what I have said?
Well, being that I've never had a period, I think that...
chill the fuck out!
I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question to. So, but yeah, I would just try to put yourself in position that you're trying to be as consistent as possible, and try to realize, and what I usually say to myself when I would get ravenously hungry during prep is that when you're in that mind frame and you feel that way and you're low energy, you feel like it's going to last forever, and it comes and goes. Like hunger comes and goes. It comes in a wave, and then if you can gut out for a little bit, it goes.
Yeah, you know, I had one night last week, or this week actually, where it was 2 a.m. and I was laying in bed, could not sleep. I had to end up going and taking a sleeping aid because I just couldn't fall asleep. I was just that hungry, and I got up and I'm standing there in the kitchen. I'm like, just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's good. You're talking to yourself. That's important.
Yeah, I like made a drink. I forgot I didn't have my vitamins, so I kind of stood in the kitchen for a little bit. I was like, just put yourself back to bed, take a fucking sleeping aid. And actually, I went upstairs, didn't sleep with him because he was snoring. So yeah, like that hunger is super, super real. And yeah, I think, what was the other thing? Oh, the foods. So diet foods, that was the other thing that's probably, if you're not getting a result and you're not getting a drop and all those other variables we talked about are on point, then it's time to kind of look at, okay, what foods am I eating that could potentially be reabsorbed calories in other places? So, you know, the efforts of our colonic bacteria. So that's the other consideration as well when you're not making progress. Yeah.
All right, guys. Like the video, subscribe to her channel, check out mine if you want. Like it, buy it. Catch you next time.
Thank you.